How can we train for strength and size at the same time? Well, we definitely need to do some low-rep heavy lifting to get strong, but even though it might be tempting, we can't just do heavy low-rep work exclusively, because even though the results of the Schoenfeld study seem to indicate that low reps are the best on the surface, you get the same hypertrophy gains with better strength gains. If you dig into the details, you'll learn that the heavy sessions took more than 4 times as long to complete, and the subjects reported higher mental and physical fatigue as well. So clearly, if we want to balance both of these goals, we definitely need to use a structured combination of different rep ranges. This is especially important because using a mixture of different rep ranges can likely trigger for growth through different mechanisms as well. It seems lower rep sets signal for muscle growth primarily through mechanical tension, whereas higher rep sets likely signal for growth primarily through metabolic stress. And rep counts in the middle would use more of a combination of the two. So to maximize growth overall, it makes sense to me to use some combination of all three. Now, if you're slightly more concerned with getting bigger, but still want to get stronger, you might want to set up your training something like this, with most of your working sets coming in the 6 to 12 zone, but you still have a solid third dedicated to heavy lifting for strength development. On the other hand, if you care a bit more about getting stronger, you should allocate more of your sets to the lower rep ranges, with the majority of your volume now coming in that heavier 1 to 5 rep zone. But regardless of how you split it up, that heavy slice should be directed toward the lifts you want to get stronger on the most, probably the squat, bench press, and deadlift for most of us. So let's go ahead and narrow in on those lifts a bit more now. I already said that strength is a skill. This means it isn't quite enough to just lift heavy. You also need to practice and refine the technical aspect of lifting to get as strong as you can be. And even though it technically counts as lifting heavy, just amping yourself up for one poorly executed balls to the wall set once every couple weeks, unfortunately, probably isn't going to do a whole lot for your max. Instead, I'd recommend intentionally practicing the big lifts around twice a week and maybe more. Personally, I hit the squat 2 to 3 days a week, bench 2 to 3 days a week, and deadlift 1 to 2 days a week, depending on the squat frequency and because deadlifts tend to take more of a recovery toll than the other two. And in my new power building program, which alternates between full body weeks and upper lower weeks, the full body week might look something like this, where you hit the squat, bench press, and deadlift all twice a week. Earlier in the week, you can go pretty hard and heavy, so you can take these sets to something like an RP of 8, maybe 8.5, where you're leaving just 1 or 2 reps in the tank. And then later in the week, you focus more on technique work, where you're training a bit further from failure, but really honing in on your form. Now, it's important to remember that if you were just going to go in and max out on the power lifts every session, not only would you likely run into recovery issues, you'd also start ingraining poor technique habits, which could end up hurting your strength return over the long run. And I think getting better with technique is an extremely important and underappreciated form of progression.